It's gross, too gross, too gross.
Oh, we never found the missing AirPod. He probably pooed it out and then it just like flushed.
Okay.
I don't know, but it might still be
well,
in
it's
there.
for the best.
Yeah. They basically just told him to flush it. But anyway, speaking of which, it is sort of like you feeling like somebody shat on your painting.
The Compton emotional landscape just takes over.
No trace of it beforehand. Yeah.
Okay. So, what are we even talking about today?
This is hanging out.
I'm the only one that
can you
doesn't have
catch me up? You already did something on this, right?
Yeah, so we had like a riff we kind of went in all kinds of different directions last time, but we had some really good stuff. We were just talking about the order of the centers and like what it looks like when somebody is kind of focusing on the blind spots. And we started off by saying that heart center is usually last and that heart in general is rare. And then we just kind of got into some discussion about heart center.
Well, we did roast head last a lot. And then I kind of felt bad on the back end where I was like, oh, they should have had like a representative, to roast us back or like talk about their experience. So that's your competency goal today.
Even though one of the biggest flaws of head last is you're bad at roasting back.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, good point.
Just set them up.
Yeah. Bully you. This is.
I think I'm good at roasting, but like the immediate, reactive pushback.
The speed.
That's a challenge. Yeah. It's a little slow.
So last week we were talking about the heart last stuff, and I was really thinking about it. And now with Lewis here, maybe he can give us his perspective on like how he perceives heart last people. One of the takeaways from our conversation from last week was how little how do I say this? How little I am filtering what I'm taking in through my experience through my identity center. And what I mean by that is like the new stimulus. For example, I just went to see a movie. I did not consider how that affects how I perceive myself, how other people possibly perceive me. I don't take that. Very rarely am I taking things in through my, how do I say it? Through my like internal filter, through like the body head center, and then also filtering it through the last center, which would be my image center. My interpretation of that is that there probably is like a mosaic kind of thing that I could put together that gives me an image that I am. But man, I really just do not spend a lot of time trying to put that image together. And I'm wondering if that's something, Joseph and Lewis, that you guys see with other heart last people, or just any comments on that.
I don't think I've ever realized that you're not doing it. Like, I think this started because I was talking about, and this is going, Lewis, based on the thing that we just did, where I was like, and this is, okay, this is definitely like a 4-wing 3 bias or 3, whatever, or maybe 4-wing 5 would be less so, or 2-wing 1, that like outside of the center, but it's like every single thing that occurs has to be, I don't know if this is a perfect language, but like referenced back to that image painting. Like, so if you go see a movie, and especially say in the 3-4 area where like art and all that kind of stuff is like always going to be part of your image, you're just kind of like, okay, am I the person that sees this movie, and how do I feel about this movie? How am I going to frame how I saw this movie, and how can I integrate it into my image? And obviously all this stuff happens kind of like rapidly and unconsciously. You're not like sitting there with like a board, but it's kind of, nothing can happen to me without it filtering through that, except for those rare, I guess maybe we can talk about this today, but you have those rare moments of like realness or glee or touching your true heart or whatever it is, where you're like actually you're just like having fun and really not thinking about that, and it's like these freeing, fleeting moments. But for the most part, and it's interesting coming from you because you're social, so it's like parsing out stuff that for me is difficult to separate social and image sometimes, but like you're not doing this thing even though you're social, so that's interesting to me. She's not doing this image thing that could be construed at, like, sometimes, if I'm talking to David and Mecca and they're gut and social blind and I'm social and heart, and so I don't know, it's not necessarily a blind spot, but it's like something where I need like a representative from the other to say this thing I'm doing isn't just social. And that gut thing you're doing isn't just
I
social
see what you're
blindness.
saying.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I don't have the words for it right now, but to me, social and image do feel very separate to me. I, again, don't know how. We'll wait for my head to catch up and figure out what that is.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, because for me, my like main social language is, of course, like trying to set the comfort for everybody and trying to manage like what everybody's comfortable in, because that seems to be like the starting point that everything else is going to build off of. My image, and of course this is just my perception as an image last first, my image really doesn't have much to do with it.
Okay.
Another thing is, and maybe this is also being a 3 heart, that I think 4 and 2 might have an easier time with it, but I think being a 3 heart compounded with being image last, something that happens all the time is John will tell me that he knows exactly what my aesthetic is. He knows exactly what my he sees how I am trying to portray myself all the time. Yeah. And sometimes that can like really get on my nerves, because I'm like, that's not what I'm doing. You're not getting it. But there's like a certain way that he is tracking what my image center is better than I am, because it's
portrait?
Just, yeah. Yeah. So there's a way that I'm like sort of playing catch up. I was like, oh yeah, I do actually am trying to portray myself a certain way all the time.
Yeah.
It's just like, because it's the last priority, I don't have like 20/20 vision on what that is.
I have this theory that image types, and there are so few of them, so it's hard to say, but they're not surprised when they look at the collages that they've made. Whereas I really think that sometimes people who are image last look at a bunch of collages they made and they're like, oh, I guess that's the thing I'm doing over and over again. And I'm just like, yeah. Like I'm not surprised when I look at my collage and I'm like, yeah, it's like naked men with like a cross in the background and there's fire. Like it's the same. I know what I'm going for. But I think sometimes, like image last people are just like, oh yeah, like it's kind of the same thing. Like, oh, I guess I am into that. I guess there are a lot of dead animals in my or whatever it is,
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I haven't made a collage in a while, but that was the through line I was able to see through them. I was like, wow, I'm kind of soft, moody, gloomy, Lana Del Rey. I don't actually like Lana Del Rey, but it has that kind of wistful vibe. And anyway, that was kind of a through line I was able to see with my own image. Oh yeah, I do kind of like that shit.
Yeah, that's interesting. And the implications of people, like most of the world being image last, and that entire trope of people trying to find themselves, that whole little conversation we just had on the side is kind of like pointing at that we already have a self, but we're just like refusing to put that on the forefront, which kind of lines up with like Jungian thought and all that shit. But it's like, it's something that we're constantly building, but just is not part of our, it's not like a conscious part of our ego or whatever. What does it feel like for you, Lewis, to be around a bunch of, I mean, I guess you and Joseph, to be, we asked Joseph this the first episode, but to be in a world full of heartless, what does heartless like on a bodily or heart center level feel like in person?
Honestly, in some ways, I think it feels relieving to me to be around a lot of heartless people, because it feels like it gives me space to do my own image thing. I think especially as a 3 assertive image, it's like, okay, this gives me more permission to take up space and do my own emotional thing. And I think the other piece is I am very sensitive to aesthetics, obviously. We were talking about this in our video, Joseph, where it feels like different objects in the environment, including people, are kind of an extension of myself. And I'm referencing myself against them. And so I think image types, maybe especially 3s, social 3s, are especially sensitive to other people's aesthetics and good at sizing people up, right? But whether you see it as good or bad can be really emotionally affecting. So the sensitivity can be hard. But I do think there is something that, in reference to what you and Alexander were saying, Joseph, that image types are able to size people up and show people their aesthetics because they're so sensitive to it and making those judgments unconsciously.
Yeah,
like I think one of the things that we like can mirror people their aesthetics, and that can take the form of being really snooty and critical about it, or just like seeing it and verbally reflecting it, or appreciating it in some way.
I don't know, maybe it's more artistic people tend to get in touch, even if they're image last, with an aesthetic, so to speak. But there are some people where I could be like, God, like your outfit's disgusting. And they're like, what? Like they are not even, it's like I pulled some completely unimportant invisible thing out of the air. And they're like, why are we talking about that? I'm just like, what the fuck else would we talk about? Like when you're wearing that, you know?
Yeah, that's reminding me of the Devil Wears Prada with Marilyn. What's her name? Marilyn, whatever her name is.
Meryl
Streep.
Yeah.
Meryl Streep. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Same trifix.
Whatever. Okay. Yeah. I haven't seen the movie in forever, but there is that one scene where Anne Hathaway is kind of scoffing
the famous
at
scene
the
about
color,
the sweater.
and she just completely sizes her up. I was like, I know that you don't want to be perceived as someone that cares about all this stuff, da 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 da, but she just like completely rips her image to shreds.
Yeah.
You know, and I assume she's a 4 in.
She's playing
movie.
a 4. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To
take it the opposite way too, there is a way that I can relate to that from the body last level, in the sense that I can usually tell when body last people are uncomfortable before they realize that they're uncomfortable. You know, like there's a certain, and maybe that's just 9 or whatever, but I've seen so many times where like head types and image types are kind of having throwing a fit within their own center, and I can sense like you're not actually like emotionally coming undone, or you're not actually stressed right now, you're uncomfortable. That's it. Like just recalibrate your body center and you'll be fine. So I'm wondering if there's some equivalent stuff that you guys pick up on.
Or there's just a gut center, like an ego boundary problem that's being reframed as one thing that we talked about last time. It's interesting, but how, because whatever your blind spot or your last center is, it almost is like a blind spot. So you'll do a lot of the processing through your first 2, but in a way that second one becomes kind of similar to the stacking play area, where we're like kind of most conscious of it, and sometimes the problems with our first and our last we try to justify through the second, right? So it's like I might be judging somebody, just purely judging and having an image problem, like you said, Lewis, like people because I'm social, people are 100% an extension of my image. It's not that I don't feel real feelings for them, but like you are just something else in this painting. So but that might be something that I don't like, and then I have like a one problem with it, and I'm going to start justifying it with 6 stuff, like, well, you know, here's some moral issue, and like doing weird mental gymnastics in the head center to try to not admit to that I'm just having this like gross image problem or whatever, you know what I mean? Because maybe it seems too stupid or it's too shameful or something like that. So maybe if that's something, I don't know, do you guys want to talk about? We talked about it a little bit, but it was actually like an interesting thing that I thought we could continue with. Is there a way that you see your second center picking up the slack for your first and last?
Like when I have anytime I have 7 or head type issues with just feeling overwhelmed and like just spinning in my head, I will go to 9 stuff of like regulate yourself, meditation, thinking about God, and like how we're very small in the universe, and it's all okay. And then the ways I ignore my last fix is that sometimes things are not okay, because my last fix is really the only place I hit negativity or competency. So it's just like it's like the buck stops here. Of like, this is fucking embarrassing and you should be ashamed, you know? So trying to regulate that through 9, but really the only thing that makes it better is to like look at myself in the mirror and feel gross and then get myself out of it, you know? But I've had to learn that lesson 1,000 times.
I feel like I could be more in touch with my body center generally, but for me, 9 is like slow down, look inside, go deeper, therapy, mental health, that kind of thing. And I associate getting in touch with my own feelings in a more vulnerable way more with my 9 fix than 3. 3 feels a lot less vulnerable. Yeah, I guess I experience head confusion as bodily discomfort.
Right.
It's really hard to connect. Like I just don't really experience, like if I experience more of like chaotic obsessional thoughts or something like that, or struggles with a decision, it's experienced more as, you know, physical body discomfort, maybe a little like needing to move around, needing to do something. Head lashes isn't good at like talking things through. and enlisting help when it comes to
That's
making
it, yeah.
decisions. Even though I have a 6 fix, I really have a hard time expressing asking for help in some more concrete way, or asking someone to help me think through things.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it's like the 3 and 9 are not polling others and asking for help. It's kind of like, I got this. And so there may be moments where there's like there's like a crisis. I'm just trying to think. It's hard to be put on the spot with this one, but I guess I just realized that there are a lot of times that I fly into 6 land because it's easier to avoid the core problem that I'm having with image. And then when I'm having a 1 problem, the thing that's sort of good and also scary about 1 is that it doesn't really think. It's just kind of like, this is not how I want it or how it's going to be. Done. There's no it's just done. But I'll, again, stay in 6 land and be like, well, I have to justify this. Like, I'll do something really mean or 1-ish or whatever. And then I have to go back to 6 and justify. But it's like 1 doesn't even really, like, 1s don't, they don't really justify their gut. You can't justify gut. It's just is what it is, right?
Yeah, and it's usually it's like the last fix is also usually already happening, but you're doing like extreme things unconsciously. So for me, I've been told a few times that I'm being like a bitch. Like, you looked so smug, when I was crying in front of you, or you looked like, or it's just, I don't know. Really?
Yeah.
That laugh.
I'm digging deep, guys.
Yeah. I love that. Like, that was like so social sexual. We're just like, and here we are. Like, scenes from my last breakup or whatever. Just like passive. Okay.
I wasn't even trying to do anything crazy.
Yeah, no, I know. It's just,
the first example that popped in my head, and I was like, smug.
Yeah.
Because it was going through my head. I was like, first off, this doesn't make sense. This is a head type shit. And then the other thing is like, I'm feeling so fucking dysregulated. And then the other thing is just like, I'm shutting down, but what's happening on the outside is that I'm like leaning back and have like a disdainful look on my face or whatever, or said something like really offhand and rude or something like that. So in a way, I would never have pick that out in myself, but other people have told me, and then the same thing with people I've seen who are body last, like whether it's 1 or 9. Like, oh my gosh, the 9 last is really intense. Like, this person's literally dissociating in front of you, and they're talking, and they're like, and it's just like, I need you to stop talking. I need you to stop talking about like how ashamed you feel, or or what you're afraid of, and like go into. You need to go to therapy. Like, talking about fucking mental health. Like, you need to go to therapy or something. Something needs to happen. But they're talking about like a situation rather than the broader gut boundaries of their life. And then same thing with the 1 fix, like 1 fix last. I think I see your 1 fix, Joseph, especially in in person, and same thing with my friend Elle. Just like, I can tell when you're getting angry. And it fucking hurts, feels like a knife to the stomach as somebody with a 9 fix. And it's just like, but you probably wouldn't see that in yourself,
I can see it, but it feels like I envy when I have a few friends who are core 1s, and 1 wing 9 too. It's like the fix I have, and it's just so that doesn't touch me. I am the law, but when my 1 fix comes out, it's like I'm just like I'm gonna cut that out, whatever the hell that just was. But like, it's like this like awkward knife throw that I just like, I took something out. You know what I mean? Like, it's just speaking of gut last. You know what I mean? Like, it's just I accidentally jabbed somebody so hard, and I'm like, oh shit! It could have been this like emotionless law, but it became this spinny, reactive head. Heart thing.
It's intense. All of a sudden, the words of God are coming at you. It's like, you're a disgusting person. It's not image. It's not that. It's just like, you're horrible. God would put you into hell or whatever, some shit like that. It's distinctly a different, energy. Sorry, I'm getting hyper.
Yeah, it sounds like your body, your body turns into some kind of like weapon. into like a
Yes.
sharp blade, sharp piercing blade.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's awkward, and it's not. I mean, okay, but sure, partially it's because of 4-6, like just being spinny and reactive or whatever. But it is this sense of no self-pres and no gut where, yeah, the one's there. It's not like you wouldn't mistake me for 9-fix, but it comes out in these awkward jabs, and then I have trouble holding on to the sense of like absolute calm knowing. Trying to justify the gut reaction that I have because maybe I don't like it, or the person in front of me doesn't like it, or whatever. But it's like not like core ones will I was talking to a good friend of mine who was 1 wing 9 the other day, and she was like, when I was a kid, she's like, I've worked on this, but she was, when I was a kid, when I felt like something wasn't right, like the paint on the, like you see this angle behind me that I've been staring at, this like fucking diagonal. I can't even look at it or I'm going to snap, but it's this sense of like, like your whole body starts to like, ripped wires, broken, the whole system's not working. And she was like, I would have meltdowns and cry and freak out because one thing, I don't know, the door was crooked or whatever, just like the littlest thing. And she's like, I've had to work on that. But when your core gut, it's like, you're conscious of this embodied feeling and you're absolutely unwavering, but like I can talk myself out of this weird gut thing with my emotions in my head, but the gut thing doesn't actually go away. Like when your gut lasts, it's like you think that you can change your gut, but you actually can't.
Yeah, Joseph, I relate to you being a 6-second also. I feel like my identification with my, I don't know, like my rationale, my way of explaining things, my way, like I just have like a fundamental trust in like the creativity of my ability to like justify anything. You know, there's a certain, that's kind of how I perceive my my head middle, is that if I'm uncomfortable, I will like pull out the reasons as to why I'm uncomfortable and why it's wrong and bad that I'm uncomfortable. But the way that I've experienced that coming to aid my image lastness is that oftentimes, and Ikraam, maybe you can relate or maybe not, I don't know, is that oftentimes I don't realize that the only problem is that I just don't like the aesthetics of whatever is happening. I don't like the aesthetics of the person I'm dealing with, and that's it. I don't mean like visually, I just like, I don't like them. It's just, if the heart center is like your preference or whatever, I just don't like them. And especially with 6 being a super ego type, I will find the super ego reason as to why they're like bad and wrong, instead of just, I just don't, there's just not my cup of tea, and that's fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to, I don't need to, you know, put them on trial like a 6-fixer.
Right.
I can just not like them.
Okay, so that's one thing I'll say too, and I don't know, Lewis, if you feel this way, but like I will go through loops as well to justify my heart preference or my gut reaction. Like I have to, and this is maybe speaking specifically to 6, but it's like when I could just be like, no, hate it.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to say. It's an ugly aesthetic, or it's an ugly, I don't like whatever. Like, it's like, now the head fix is like, well, I can't just simply, you know, and I bother 9s by doing this too. Even if they have secondary 6, well, they'll just be like, I don't, like my body said no. And I'm just like, why? Explain. Why? What? No, follow-up question. Like, you know what I mean? I have to like, well, what do you mean? Yeah, like, I can't just, whereas like gut is just no or yes or whatever, right? And the heart as well. Like these are the centers that don't talk. They just feel or embody.
Yeah, I don't feel like I need to come up with reasons for not liking something. I think there's the core 3 judgment plus the 9 gut certainty. Like
that's good. Yeah,
there's a lot of stock that's put in the initial reaction, and if I'm asked, like, I don't need to give any reason. Like my heart perception is objectively valid itself,
right?
With with the gut in there.
Yeah, that's a good thing for me to remember with that being my last center, is like the heart center doesn't need, like reason just doesn't belong in that center. It is just a matter of yes or no.
It's a question of taste.
That thing you said about maybe I just don't like this person, or maybe they're not my cup of tea or whatever, right? they're not your cup of tea, but is there, I can't say cup of tea. It's so like 911, like cup of tea.
Yeah.
Like I fucking hate her. No, but it's like, is there, I get this sense when I'm around a person that isn't my cup of tea that I want to throw tea in their face because they're making me feel like they're giving me an image crisis. I'm just wondering for the two heartless people, because Lewis we talked about like if I'm in a room like, and okay, this is like super but like there, you know, for example, like why can I not come to like a zone or whatever? It's because like it's not about not liking people in the room. It's like something will happen and it will be a problem for me. One will be upset, 4 will be disgusted, and I have to leave, and I'd rather just like not come. So, like when I do social environments, they have to be sort of controlled, or I have to like vet them first so that I'm not going to have a disgust reaction to it, right? But like no matter what your heart center is, if you're having a crisis of image where you're just like, this is maybe different for 2-3 area, but everybody kind of here is in the 3-4 area. So at least on that respect, do you also feel, is there some way that you get in touch with the fact that you're like, I don't even want to be associated, maybe, and this is maybe social too, but like I don't even want this person like in the room with me, and there's this sadness in heart where you feel like you're in a space that's not mirroring back to you how you think you're supposed to be, including the people in the space.
That happens to me on the back end after a crisis.
In the back.
After.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can relate to being in the room with someone and just not wanting them there. The way that my sort of like center stacking will show up is that being 9 first, being body first, I'm just like, well, great. Now I have to like be extra 9 to cover up the fact that I'm disrupted internally because I don't want this person here. And then my 6 can filter it through like the reasons as to why they shouldn't be here or something like that. But yeah, I will feel it, and I'll feel guilty about that's how it shows up for me. Is I'll feel guilty about it, or I'll try to like gaslight myself into thinking that like I'm wrong and bad for having that preference.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely feel it when someone's and of course this is like we're all 4 social types, so this is like an easy way to talk about it. But yeah, if someone that I don't know, just click with, or that I don't just like aesthetically appreciate, is around, it does feel pretty disruptive. I just will go through these like indirect filters and not realize that it's just that simple.
It's just this, that you're looking in the back end, you're always looking at yourself and being like, okay, who do I want this person to be? Right. And when you're in a situation that's not just not matching up, it's not congruent with this picture, you're misaligned, and depending on what your heart type is, it probably you feel probably shame and sadness deep down. This kind of like I have heard even social blind, like I've heard David make jokes, but probably true, where he's like, that person's so disgusting to me, like I don't even want to be associated. Just picture David saying it in that voice. I don't remember exactly what he said.
He's got it in him.
Yeah, but it's that kind of, and this is super social blind, but it's still just like, wow, it's performing 3, but it's like accessing that heart center of like, this is not me. This thing isn't me. And wherever we go in life, the heart center wants us to experience people and experiences, whatever, that are congruent with who we think we are. And of course, this image is completely, it's subconscious, right? We're not sitting there going, who am I? It's just like, this is really who I think I am and who I'm supposed to be, or whatever, right? So when you're in a situation that's not, it could manifest as, I just don't like this person, but there are a lot of reasons to not like a person. Like that could be maybe vague, but like there's a sadness that I think heartless people aren't registering, where they're just like, I don't, sometimes they do, sometimes they talk about it. And maybe, I think it's sometimes being around people like me or Lewis or whatever, they're just like, oh, that's what it is. Like I can talk about it. Really just didn't, like, I felt gross in this room or whatever it was. I don't know.
No, that makes complete sense. Some of the most intense, like, emotional times in my life have been, I couldn't put my finger on it. I kept on trying to do the 7 reframe thing, and then the 9, like accepting life and all this shit, philosophy, and I just couldn't get better. And when I finally realized what it was, oh, like I've been touched by something that makes me feel extreme shame. Like I wish that this never happened to me and I never met this person. I wish that I was like, why did I let myself be in this position? It's just so embarrassing. It's not social. It feels much deeper than social. It feels like,
your
oh,
own
I can't like,
identity.
look at myself in the same way.
Right.
know?
Like this isn't me.
And it doesn't feel logical because it's like, what did I fucking do? And it's like, oh, it's just because it's like unseemly. Like,
right. It might not even be trauma or gross. It's just like not you. Like I don't know. Just it's just like not
it's like somebody just smeared shit on your like portrait, and you didn't even know that you had like you didn't know you were Dorian Gray, you know, and now you have like shit on your
like
aura.
And then speaking of poo, these right here in my ears right now were dropped into the toilet before this call. Dropped in the toilet in their case, just dropped in the toilet. And toilet paper got lucky. like strangled it. And I stuck my hands in, stuck them in. It was clean. It was clean because I'm very clean, but still it's a toilet, so stuck my hands in, couldn't come out. So I had to go get a spoon from the kitchen, picture it, and go in and fish out.
You had to ladle it out. That's
I had to ladle it out.
Jeez.
Okay, bring it back, take off the toilet paper, rinse it, disinfect everything, take the whole thing apart, disinfect, let it dry. And now they're in my ears. Anyway, let's continue.
I would have just flushed it.
Bye.
It would have clogged my pipes. It would have clogged my pipes, and they're like super expensive. Actually, one time, so my ex in the middle of the night swallowed one of these, and we could hear it beeping in his stomach. I know. I had to take him to the emergency room in the middle of the night, and they gave him an X-ray, and it was just like a human body with an Airpod, just like somewhere.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, I knew it was probably still going to work
crazy.
because I'm like, it was like charging in your esophagus. So anyway, but just speaking of poo, just because it's been on my mind, because it's probably in my
weirdest
ears.
tangent, yeah.
Yeah.
That's like a next level closeness with your partner. You just wait until they go, skip it out. It's gross, too gross.
Oh, we never found the missing AirPod. He probably pooed it out and then it just like flushed. I don't know, but it might still be in
it's
there.
for the best.
Yeah. They basically just told him to flush it. But anyway, speaking of which, it is sort of like you feeling like somebody shat on your painting. To go back to the
Jesus Christ.
And the only way to fix it is to do the heart center thing. Like, I'm never going to be in a position like that. I'm going to level up 10 fucking times and da-da-da.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be
do the
type
3
of
week
person
4,
where
curate, elevate.
Never fucking happens again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only way to get better.
Right. Yeah. It's the social climbing. I need to upgrade my status so that I'll never be in this class of environment again.
Yeah.
Class of environment. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting, the way that's all being put, because I am realizing that I have a lot of retroactive shame for social circles that I was in because I wasn't in contact with my preference at the time. You know, so I was doing a lot of like 9 first. It was just like, I'm going to make myself comfortable in this environment. Also being completely out of touch or just like in distant touch to the fact that like, I don't really like these people, but I'm just like trying to make myself fit anyways. Yeah. Because at least I can be comfortable.
I'm trying to...
and then you leave those friendships and you're like, did I fucking hate myself? Like, do I hate myself? Do I think I'm a cockroach, actually?
Like,
let's get deeper.
Or I would feel really guilty also because I'd be like, wow, I don't miss them at all. I didn't like them, you know? And then I'd feel like an asshole for being like, why did I spend time with people I didn't like
You
then?
are an asshole. That's fine. Do it.
You're a very mean person.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do it.
I feel like I need to get more in touch with my 6 fix so I can actually like think about why I don't like things, be able to put words to it.
That's
I think that's part of my problem. And it's like I think you need the head center to process things, right? To kind of move it through the system.
It hits like a wall of gut, and like those it doesn't shift enough. One thing I like to do is like partially sexual instinct too, but I like for music, for example, I like having a reaction that actually bothers me and then being like, why? It's not enough. Like, I'm aware it bothers me, but now I'm interested. Like, why am I bothered by this? There's something in this that I can actually like. And honestly, like a lot of times where I've just been like, I hate this, I hate that. My friends will laugh about it, but it's just like, you said you hated this 2 weeks ago. Now it's like your favorite thing. And it's just like, yeah, because, but I thought it would be interesting to like push into something that I hated and see if there was something that I liked in it or something. It's just like more head processing. Like I'm reading a book with my friend Elisa right now. And actually it'd be interesting to I don't know, have her in this discussion because she's 3-wing too. But we're reading the book and we can't, like, we will read a chapter and then we have to call and talk. It's not enough to just have a reaction to it. We have to talk about it. And I'm getting so much. She's got a 7 fix, but still it's just like, okay, so what did you like? What did you like? What did you think of this? We're going back and forth and talking and analyzing. And then we read the next chapter and I'm enjoying it so much. Like I have to do that. I do this to Luke all the time. We'll like watch an episode and I'm like, so what are your thoughts? Like, let's do head center. And he's just like, we watched it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was here too.
Yeah, I noticed that happening myself when watching shows or TV. Like, I don't really like TV that much, but I'm often like just not able to track the plot, especially because TV is written in such a nuanced, complex way now.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, I just give up and start taking the show in on a more aesthetic level. Like I was watching The Gilded Age recently, which is a pretty bad show, but it's really aesthetically pleasing. And I just have no idea what's actually happening. Like I barely know the characters. Everyone's kind of plotting. Everyone's plotting against each other, and it's a really 3-9 show.
No thoughts, just vibes.
Just vibes.
It's just vibes. It's just like really. It's like, you know, it's the Gilded Age. It's crazy, expensive sets and ridiculous dress and all that.
That's so funny because I see every now and then on Instagram, I follow these accounts that like read a lot of books or something, and every now and then it'll be a list that is like no plot, just vibes. Or I'll hear people say all the time like the movie has great aesthetics or great cinematography, and I've always been like, who cares? Like, who cares if that's an enhancement to the story, to the character study, to the that kind of stuff, then great. But like the idea of reading a book just for the vibes or watching a movie just for the aesthetic is almost like I'm not going to do that. Yeah. And I wonder if that's partially an Image Last thing.
I think so.
Head Last doesn't really like stories that much.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. If it doesn't grab me instantly, I will be bored and I'll no.
Right. I need
I need to be like thinking and kind of stressed and like hooked. You need to be like mentally hooked into it, or I'm be like, this is stupid. Bye.
One thing as a like pianist that was my weakness when I was younger was I absolutely knew how I wanted something to make me feel. I wouldn't even bother with it if it didn't make me feel anything. And I also liked things that were complex and made me think that I could analyze. But in a performance, you can't just run with the poetry of the moment all the time. You really have to think about the whole. Like if a moment is calling for something, it's like, okay, but I still have like 10 minutes left. Does this really work in this like overarching thing of the whole piece? And so I've had to learn, and I'm finding so many different kinds of performances of the same music that I liked years ago, where I'm like, oh yeah, you could do this explosive climax here, and it'll make you jizz, but then you've jizzed, so you know how much jizz you have left for the next 10 minutes. So you're like, can I plan tension and release, and like, can I plan the overarching kind of like landscape of this entire thing as a whole and really make it so that when you do, I don't want to go with the jizz metaphor anymore, but you get it.
You shock. I'm really thinking, wow, sexual really is my last instinct. Go ahead.
Right. No, that's a really good metaphor, because it feels like that. It does feel body last almost, because it's like the missing of the container or whatever. But if we did the same metaphor for all of us, it would be a similar thing. Like, does this thematically, emotionally, I think I would have a hard time, like, does this emotionally hit or whatever? Is there a story running through? I think in the first episode we talked about the heart being kind of narrative in a way. Yeah. That's the stuff I struggle with.
Yeah, me too.
So that makes sense. I think that's really good.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because even if we're talking about like music tastes and stuff like that, I was a singer in college, and I was always picking my pieces based on their technical level. I was just like, I wanted the really hard stuff just to like show off a certain kind of technical proficiency. But very rarely did I think about the like heart expression of what I would have to be singing. And then when I did run into something that did really feel aligned with me, of course it felt great, but I like did not connect that that's why it was feeling great. I thought I was just like mastering a certain kind of technique or something. And
it didn't become part of who you are. It just became something that you liked and did. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and even still, a lot of my music taste is just like, oh, who's like a really complex, complicated, you know, proficient singer versus a heart expression of stuff that
and
oftentimes doesn't have the same kind of proficiency.
Right. Sorry. Yeah. And you are, the image framing is you are somebody who seeks out music that is complex, and you know what I mean? Like you can like any music you want, but what does that say about you?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. That's that like extra layer that like is constantly.
Okay. I learned something about myself.
Yeah. Because that's who you are. Like you are a person who, and it depends. Like, look, image can be really shallow or it can be really deep, right? Like if you go really down into it, it's like, well, this all kind of makes you who you are. You're somebody who sings, and you sing this way, and you like this type of music, and you did it, and how much do you do it now, and what does it mean? And what, like, it's just all of this. If you like track it and run it into like a narrative or a painting or whatever, that's you. And you can look at it, you can like stare at it and be like, that's me.
Right. And that's the part that as an image last I've always struggled with. And it's interesting because it kind of is recontextualizing the Enneagram, because I used to think that was just a 9 problem, then compounded with 6, then compounded with 3. But I am wondering now if it's really primarily an image last thing, because this idea of zooming out and look at like the portrait of myself that I've been subconsciously painting this entire time almost never occurs to me. And I don't know what it would look like. Yeah, and even after our call the last time, I was messaging you guys about it a little bit. I was trying to kind of do that, like trying to take out, I was like, let's take all of my interests and see what kind of tone gets threaded through all of those interests. You know, so also something I just never consider. I never consider putting myself or my actions or my thoughts or, you know, me into like a genre.
Yeah.
And that is something I feel like heart core people and even heart second people have a good amount of it too. They're kind of always just like, this is the genre of music I am. This is the color, the tone, the shade, you know, all that kind of stuff.
It'll be complex. Like it could be like, you know, I'm all these different things, but like they're ready to whip it out. Like they know, because they're staring at it and crafting at it. And they're also deleting and editing things they don't really want you to see, depending on who you are and what the time is, you know? Yeah. So you're not getting, it's not to say the heart types can't be authentic, but no one's really authentic, but your heart center is doing something inauthentic. It's messing up your true heart by editing and deleting. Yeah.
Right. It's when's the right time to broadcast, and is this audience worthy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. With social, to me too, because there's so much about social that is, and to me is wrapped up in image, but it's not like when you like social types. It still is about like, okay, who am I in this kind of like real time moment, contextually in this space with other people? But it's not necessarily okay. But like, it doesn't have that sort of narcissism, for lack of a better word, of the heart center of like, okay, I built this image of myself. Now I need to look at it and craft it and paint it. Like image types stand there. I mean, I know I keep using the painting metaphor, but I can't think of anything that works better. But it's like you're standing there with a brush and being like, okay, hold on, and you get tripped up because you'll be like in the moment and you'll be like, hold on, I gotta look at my painting for a moment and like find my brush, but you're like, maybe you can't, or somebody took your brush away, or they like shat on your painting, Ikraam, right? Like smeared poo on it. So you have to clean it off and, you know, spoon it out of the toilet or whatever.
This has been a really interesting conversation because I am seeing you guys being social types and also heart and just doing it totally different.
Social is you're seeing yourself more abstractly as a social object or like a representation of some social category. Like I'm this kind of person. And I think there's usually an emotional disconnect from it.
Right.
Or there's less emotional investment in it than it being an image thing. An image thing, it feels like, yeah, I'm not this kind of person. Like I am this person.
Yeah. And it's, I find that the instincts have,
oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah.
like a motion to them that's, if they're everything, pre-cognitive, they're just kind of like, I don't know, like jolts of stuff. So like in social, it's like someone's talking to me. What do I do? It's not this really complex thing of like, okay, well, let me paint a picture of myself. It's just like person looking at me, voice coming at me, communication, go. Like, you know what I mean? And so you're like kind of activated and on, just like self-pres. It's like, you know, fire, hot, like I need money, it's not to say that these things aren't sophisticated, but they're kind of
they're
like, you're cracking me up.
Fire, hot,
like
hungry, me hungry.
Yeah, so sensual today.
Self-pres laughs.
So sensual.
The sexual is just like a kind of like, oh, there's something that could destroy me, that's intriguing, go. Like it has a kind of almost thoughtless motion to it or something like that, whereas the centers are just like a lot more, I don't know, refined and human, and the instincts are like animal. With social, you're like I've used this Alexandra when we did our social pod, but it's just like kind of a good example where I feel there's a difference between standing in an elevator by yourself and standing in an elevator with another person in there. Like if there's another person in there, I can't relax fully because I'm trying to figure out if what I'm supposed to do. Do I need to acknowledge them? Do I need to say hi? Do I need to smile? Is that enough? Did I like whatever? Just like, you know what I mean? Like what do I have to do in this situation? When you're completely alone, you're just like nothing. I can just process whatever. But yeah, like that's social. It's like real time, I don't know, human
awareness.
In my space. Awareness, yeah.
Like code of conduct or something like that. Yeah.
And then I think even the spillover of when you're alone and thinking about social, it's different. Like for me, being a head type with secondary 9, like I process people a lot, but what am I processing? I'm processing, what kind of like, I don't know, the 9 stuff is like, what is their family history? And like, how do they feel in this group? And how do they feel around me? Do they feel safe around me? Where are we in our, whatever friendship? And then the 7 thing is just like, I don't know, just the head type stuff is like, oh, I've like just kind of enjoying the friendship and like thinking about all the adventures that we could go on and all this shit or
future,
so it's like a different kind of ideation that feels not heart.
Yeah, social at the bottom is just the drive to connect with another person.
Yeah.
And that is interesting to pull out from the heart center, because heart, as we like, I don't know if this is the correct way to say it, but like, I don't know, as like we say it in society, people connect through the heart, but in the Enneagram, I do think it's actually different. We connect through the social instinct, not necessarily through the heart, or, I mean, it then gets compounded through all 3 centers. But I think social, ultimately is just the drive to connect in order, and how do I say, the drive to care for others and be cared for. I think that's all it is. And you can do that through the head, heart, or body.
And what you'll see oftentimes, I think, in a heart last world is what appears to me to be like a shallowness of connection. It's maybe not shallow, but 2 head types, like you see 2 head types talking, they're just like literally talking at each other, talking over each other. And I'm like, is that real? But like maybe for them it is real. Like this is social head. It's just doing this. Or like 2 9s just kind of sitting there, like literally not speaking, but like being in the same room together. Like 2 like jars of peanut butter just like sitting on the counter or whatever, right? Like
that's how I identify. Yeah, actually.
So there's a I think people access their heart center when they get closer in a friendship, because it's about saying, vulnerably, like, this is me. Maybe I'm doing less editing and less deleting when I'm around you, and that's where you really share and connect. And I think that I at least find, again, this might just be a forward perspective, I don't know how you feel, Lewis, but like, I find that people don't do this enough. I can have head friendships, it's fun, but like, who are you and what are we sharing, and am I, you know what I mean, like, are we getting real, and what, like, real is that kind of image center maybe.
Yeah, it's a certain kind of real. It's a realness that comes from having a felt emotional connection. I think for me as a head last, it's hard because social and head are so connected. And I really feel like I don't have that as a way of connecting to just fall back on. And I'm quick to really get caught up in or experience it as noise and not be able to track it. And read it as a bunch of nonsense when there's actually probably something very coherent going on.
Most of the time, not.
Like it's easy to just, it does, I mean, I really do believe that it's like, it's nonsense all the time, but I definitely miss that as a vehicle of connection a lot of the time. Yeah.
If your head, like, even head second, like somebody who stimulates your need for head.
You need for head. Yeah, exactly.
Somebody who gives you head.
Someone
Sexual middle today.
And then you give them head and everyone's just so happy.
You're giving each other head stimulation. I mean, that is something that is the connection in a way that like, it's like, if you're a 7 and you're like, wow, this person,
I was just gonna say,
made me think and have fun and all this kind of stuff, like, what better thing can you do for a 7 to show your love, right?
Yeah, my best friend is a 5, and like, the big thing, she's also social, the big thing that we have about our friendship is, oh, you're the only person I can go, like, we can just do only head or whatever.
Yeah. You can just
head endlessly or whatever.
Stay with the
and
head.
No one's gonna freak out and no one's gonna whatever. Yeah. But you're the only person I can do this with. It tends to be a big thing.
Yeah, heart is like, it's what you like, it's what you care about, it's what stirs you up emotionally.
Yeah, your values.
Yeah.
Let's talk. So it's like, let's talk about heart. Like, Elisa and I met in high school, and we would, as teenagers, just sit there in class and have like passionate debates about. And I don't even explain it. They weren't heady debates. It would just be like, I feel this way about this issue, and then she'd be like, well, I feel this way, and we would just kind of like have these emotional, heated. And, you know, she's 8 fix, I'm 1 fix, and they would get like really, and they'd just be like 9s, just like looking at us. And then but it was fine. Like, we'd just be like, anyway, like, it was not, like, it was like, whatever. It's just like, but like, what we're doing is, let me share my heart space with you. Like, all the things, values, the emotions and values that I identify with, and see if you, and then like, you know, push them against each other and see what happens. At least from the 1-8 fix perspective.
Yeah, I do tend to agree that deep friendships need to kind of they do have to hit the heart center in order for it. Because, like we said in the first episode, like, heart center is kind of your personhood, the thing that makes you uniquely human, or that's that singular spark of life or whatever. So I do agree that deep friendships need heart.
Although it can feel, if you have too much heart, like, I mean, the heart is a lie. It's a crafted painting, right? So you can, I think it's weird. On the flip side of that, sometimes people who are heart last can feel more real because they don't care about what they're showing you. It's just unfiltered sort of coming out. Whereas like, heart types are really giving you something specific that they've designed. And so while that's really something to cherish and it's like important, you sometimes want to be like, but who are you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, who are you really when you're not doing this? And so if you become close with somebody who is high heart, you will get past, they will stop editing for you. They will stop, you know what I mean? Like, I am different, not that different, but like, I don't know. Like, there are things more that settled. People, you know what I mean? Like, so because, and I'm not, there are things I will refuse to show, like stupid things that don't seem important that I will refuse to show most people, that I will show people that I trust.
It's like the opposite for people who are heart last. They need to show their heart and identity for more, and people who are heart first need to, like, loosening the identity.
Loosen it up.
Loosening the grip on image feels like a sign of connection. You know, it's absolutely. And loosening the grip on image is actually something that like it actually helps whip up more emotional energy, because as a heart type, you have the capacity to get the feels going, but it's often constrained, by your image painting. So I think letting that go really allows you to open the floodgates in a way that the other centers can't.
It feels like with the heart last, oftentimes you are spilling, and it feels like that spontaneous spill is not really satisfactory, because sometimes you need a mold and mold things and let it, I don't know, coagulate so it's something. Like I oftentimes feel like when I do heart spill, it feels immature, or image. It just doesn't feel. I don't know if it just doesn't feel like I've scratched the itch well enough.
It's like unfocused.
So it's unfocused, yeah. So my work around the heart center has been trying to mold something. If I actually feel like image attacked or whatever, I have to actually give that space and honor that that's a real thing that I'm dealing with, and then try to fucking put something together instead of just my friend talks about it, like she has 4 secondary. She's like, sometimes it feels like heart lasts like only they put like shitting your pants in public on a pedestal when it comes to image stuff. And so
seven,
I was like, that's a good point.
Social sexual 7, like in 7 in general, like the heart center's thwarting head, right? Because head is like orientation. Like I have to, like especially 6-7 area, like I'm going out, I want everything, I want access to everything, so I can just you can't limit where my head can go and where I can orient myself. And the heart center's like, hold on, let's narrow shit down, let's put it through the sieve, let's get it going into some kind of, you know what I mean, where so there's some part where you're just like, I want to put that 3 wing 4 kind of like image together and figure out who I am, and 7's like, well, I'm bored, like next, like I want the next thing, I don't like forget that, like I'll just go somewhere else. You know what I mean? So they're kind of like our first, they're all no matter what type you are, your trifix is just like fighting each other and working together at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's so much more we can say, but we've been an hour, so we actually 102. We should probably call it a day. But that was really good, I hope.
Yeah, that was fun.
How many times did I bring up poo?
So much. Yeah, there really is like so much that for me is coming out of this conversation. Like, for example, pulling apart, and this doesn't, I'm just talking now with you guys. Hang on,
I'll stop recording so that we feel comfortable, not on camera, and finish.